So, in this discussion on Indo-Pak relations, Jammu and Kashmir is a very important component and it is a major bone of contention between India and Pakistan. So, in that context, I would like to speak a bit about Article 370. So, this particular video is about 370, which has been abrogated by the Modi government recently in 2019. So, let me just talk about that. So, the topic heading is Article 370 and some clarifications and some information, some additional information for you to understand what has happened and how is it working, or rather what went in the whole process. So, it is very important in the context of Indo-Pak relations in the end. Okay. So, Article 370 was added as a temporary provision, and it is part of the part 21, or rather it was mentioned in part 21 of the Constitution of India, which dealt with temporary, transitional, special provisions. The heading of part 21 was temporary, then transitional and special provisions. Okay, temporary, transitional, special provisions. So, that is how Article 370 were added. So, these the meaning is that all the provisions of the Constitution which are applicable to other states are not applicable to Article 370. So, to Jammu and Kashmir. So, Article 370 says only Article 1, that is India, that is Bharat, is a union of states, and Article 370 is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. So, Article 1 and Article 370 is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. That is what is, that is the essence of Article 370. So, all other articles, all the provisions of the Constitution which are applicable to other states of India are not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. That is the position of Article 370. And according to the article, so, and again, except, what are the exceptions which are applicable to 370? Defense, communication, foreign affairs, and finance. Okay, and finance, defense, foreign affairs, finance, communication. So, these are the items which are applicable to Jammu and Kashmir, and so in any other item, Parliament needs state government's concurrence for applying that law. So, according to 370, for any other item, Parliament needs state legislative assemblies concurrence. So, state legislative assemblies concurrence is required. So, the state's residents live under the separate set of law, including citizenship, ownership of property, fundamental, everywhere there is a difference. So, Article 370 provides that. So, 370 was eventually drafted by Gopal Swami Iyengar. 370 was drafted by Gopal Swami Iyengar. He was a minister without portfolio in the first Union Cabinet, and he was also the former Diwan of Maharaja Hari Singh. He was the former Diwan of Maharaja Hari Singh. So, definitely Maharaja Hari Singh had a lot of confidence in him, and he was also a minister in the Union Cabinet as minister without portfolio. So, that is how the relationship with Iyengar drafted it. So, 370, what happened to the 370? See, now, but we know, then subsequently, New Delhi agreement came, a series of agreements came, the autonomy which was promised has been watered down, diluted over the years subsequently. So, a series of presidential orders eroded Article 370 substantially. So, what happened to 370 subsequently? What happened subsequently? So, Article 370 was incorporated into the Constitution in the original Constitution 1950, but I will say through a series of presidential orders, 370, the provisions of 370 were diluted. The provisions of 370 were substantially diluted, and it started with New Delhi Agreement of 1952, and even as I mentioned in another video also, even a 1975 agreement between Sheikh Abdullah and Indira Gandhi. 1975 Sheikh Abdullah and Indira Gandhi agreement. So, in every subsequent agreement, the autonomy of Jammu and Kashmir was further eroded. So, finally, before in 2019, when finally this autonomy was completely removed by the Prime Minister Modi government in 2019, what was left behind was very little. It was only namesake autonomy was left with them. In fact, it has taken away almost everything except some of the provisions like for the permanent residents, their rights, non-applicable to emergency provisions, especially Article 352 for internal disturbances. And the 370 promised that they will not alter the boundary. Article 3 is not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, very few things, some of the rights of residents, what was left behind, by 2019, what was left behind was only rights of residents, then maybe 352 not extended for armed rebellion, or we can say in Article 3 not extended, so you cannot alter the boundary of the state and all, and without a consent of state. So, very few rights were left, very few autonomy were left with Jammu and Kashmir before it was completely revoked by the Union Parliament, which is under the scrutiny of the Supreme Court now. I don't know what Supreme Court will tell. So, now the question, there is always a question, can Article 370, now very interesting question I would like to ask here, and you should also think very carefully. Now my question is, can Article 370 be revoked unilaterally? Be revoked unilaterally. See, we have done it now. We have revoked it unilaterally. But can it be done? See, in fact, the clause 3 of Article 370 says, Article 370 clause 3 says, the President may by public notification declare that this article shall cease to be operative, but only on the recommendation of the Constituent Assembly of the state. President may declare by public notification, may declare that this article 370 has ceased to be operative. Declare that article has ceased to be operative. President may declare that article 370 ceased to be operational. But the idea was that it can be done only on the recommendation of the Constituent Assembly of the state. Only on the recommendation of the Constituent Assembly of the state. Now, if Constituent Assembly is not there, at least by the legislature of the state. Constituent Assembly completed its activities by 1956. A new constitution came to being in Jammu and Kashmir by 1956. So, it can be revoked only by the Constituent Assembly of the state or the state legislature of the state. Now, what in 2019, what the Prime Minister Modi government has done is, they have dissolved, or rather using Article 356, the state legislative assembly was dissolved. So, there was no state legislative assembly at that time. So, it was under the governor's rule. Now, when the governor's rule is going on, when there is no state legislative assembly, all the responsibility, all the powers of the legislative assembly is with the governor, or in turn, it can be termed as it is with the central government or the union parliament. So the union parliament on behalf of the state legislative assembly approved it through a governor's statement or a governor's approval. It's very interesting. The union parliament is taking away the powers of Article 370 or taking away 370. Now you need the consent of the state legislative assembly. State legislative assembly is not there right now because it is dissolved by using presidential powers of Article 356. Now that power of the assembly is with this parliament, and the agent of parliament is agent of the union is the governor is sitting there. So since the legislative assembly is not there, the consent of the the governor was asked. Governor immediately gave the consent, and 370 was withdrawn. So this is where the whole process of removal of Article 370 became undemocratic. I am repeating, the removal of Article 370 has become undemocratic because the meaning of democracy has been diluted in this. That's the reality. We have to accept it. Now this matter is in the Supreme Court now. Supreme Court, I don't know what Supreme Court will tell. Supreme Court can have its own argument. These days, the way Supreme Court is behaving, it is very, you might have heard during the lockdown time, when some people went to the Supreme Court on behalf of the migrants. Supreme Court refused to even take up the case. And then there was a train accident at that time. I don't know whether you remember or not. There was some people who were walking on the track. They slept on the track thinking that there is no train, and a goods train came, and I think 15-16 people got killed at that time. When this matter was raised, the reaction by the Supreme Court was very funny. Supreme Court said that, who asked you to sleep on the track? I mean, if somebody is sleeping on the track, what can we do? It is not my problem. Let the states or the center decide. So, Supreme Court has literally washed its hands and said that we will not interfere in the problems of the people. It's very sad. This is not what we have heard about the Supreme Court. This is what I have seen at least the era of judicial activism. Now it is a judicial passivism and maybe judicial coma. I don't know what term people will be using for the way judiciary is behaving when people are reaching the Supreme Court. Supreme Court even is scolding the people who are taking a public PIL. So we don't know what will be the reaction of the Supreme Court, but genuinely I feel Supreme Court will have to declare, we'll have to go through, and if they are genuinely interested in the democracy and the Constitution of India, withdrawal of Article 370 cannot be unilaterally done. It should be done with the consent of the State Legislative Assembly, and Supreme Court should declare this abrogation of Article 370 or withdrawal of Article 370 and bifurcation of the state into two and all is unconstitutional. That is what Supreme Court normally should have been telling. But these are extraordinary times. We don't know how Supreme Court will behave. Only after judgment we can tell. Now, even after that, I mean, even if the judgment comes in future saying that it is 100% constitutional, there is nothing wrong with that. My opinion and your opinion as far as whether it is democratically done or not, definitely it is not democratically done. This is not, we have violated the spirit of the Constitution. This removal of 370 has violated the spirit of democracy, the spirit of Constitution. It has violated the very spirit of the Constituent Assembly, we can say. The way Constituent Assembly functioned through debates and discussion, and what happened in the abrogation of 370 overnight within 24 hours without any proper discussion in both the House of the Parliament, no public debate, nothing. You sent thousands of troops to the Jammu and Kashmir, silence the people, cut all internet connection, everything, arrest all the political leaders and send to jail. Parliament within 24 hours you execute it. So it is very sad that we have to do all, see, when we boast ourselves to be the model democracy in the world, if we have to do it to our own people, see, people of Jammu and Kashmir are our people. They are the citizens of this country. They have the full right to be a citizen of this country, and they are. They have joined Indian Union with free will, with great expectation. So whatever it is, this Article 370, if it has been revoked, unfortunately, without the consent of the people. So now after doing this, we have taken out, that is the position of the Article 370 now. So now is Article 370 any source of gender bias? In fact, there is a lot of talks about this. See, in fact, we have given special powers for the state. So is 370 leading to gender biasness? See, because the reason was that the property rights for women, if the issue was that if a Jammu and Kashmir born or Jammu and Kashmir woman, if she marries outside, she has property rights or not? See, there was will she continue as a permanent resident or not? See, the provision in Jammu and Kashmir, according to an April 1927 notification, as well as a June 1932 notification, two notifications of Jammu and Kashmir, it says that, which is during the Maharaja's rule, it says that if a woman from the state marries outside the state, she loses her status as a state subject. If a woman marries outside the state, she will lose the status of the state subject. But this was declared unconstitutional by the Jammu and Kashmir High Court in 2002. In 2002, Jammu and Kashmir High Court has declared that it is an unconstitutional step, she should not lose it. So that was done by the High Court. So it is not because 370, but 370 has allowed the state citizenship. In the definition of the state citizenship, according to the Maharaja's time, any woman who marries outside the state will automatically lose the state citizenship. That is how it has gone. Now, another question is, has 370 strengthened separatist tendency, or is 370 the reason for separatism in Jammu and Kashmir? This is the argument, that is a common argument. See, 370 gives a lot of autonomy. See, autonomy is not the reason for separatism. Autonomy was there right from the beginning. We were trying to take back only. It is not that we gave any autonomy subsequently or anything. In fact, the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of grievances for the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And Pakistan exploited it because of their proximity, religion, etc. They also played its role. There are so many shortcomings from our side. The mainstream political leadership of Jammu and Kashmir, there were a lot of shortcomings. The government of India, right from New Delhi's point of view, every day or every time we were trying to take away their rights. And many a times it was accused that the elections in Jammu and Kashmir subsequently in 1960s and 70s and all, these elections were manipulated. Genuine people's will and people's voice did not come. There were problems in the rigging in the elections were there. These are the accusation against the mainstream political parties of Jammu and Kashmir. So ultimately, there are a lot of pent up anger. People were frustrated. Pakistan exploited that situation, and that is what ultimately led to the separatism and all. Article 370 as such is not an issue. If somebody is asking for independence, autonomy doesn't matter. So 370 definitely was not the reason for any separatist movement in Jammu and Kashmir. We had separatist movement in Assam. We had separatist movement in many parts of northeastern states. They have their own history, their own problems. Nagaland separatist movement, Manipur separatist movement, Mizoram separatist movement, in Assam, Ulfa and separatist movement. Even to a smaller extent, Tamil separatist movement. So these separatist movements are not because of any particular provision in the constitution or any special provision like Article 370. 370 is because of it's a historic legacy. It is because of the history and the manner in which Jammu and Kashmir joined Indian Union. That is why Article 370 is there, not because of any special provisions. So people were frustrated. People did not feel part of Indian Union because of various reasons. We could not resolve that issue. See, India is the larger society is Indian society. Jammu and Kashmir is a small society within that society. If this society and the people have some grievance against the larger union and the federation, it is the duty of the federation to resolve it. We have to find an amicable solution. We need to talk to the people, find a way and resolve the matter rather than declaring, using our force and might and silence them. Silencing them using the gun cannot bring loyalty to the nation. The feeling of oneness and togetherness will not come towards India. The nationalistic feeling will not come if you are imposing our will by using gun and silencing them by even cutting off their internet connections and separating and even discriminating them in many cases across the mainland. The Kashmiri citizens were literally discriminated, unfortunately. So this will not solve the problem. Temporarily using money power and muscle power, we may be able to hold on to the territory. But loyalty and feeling for the whole country will come only through that soft power. We have to make people understand through discussion, dialogue and understanding the problems of the people. Then only we can win over the people. We may hold on to the territory, but we will never be able to win over the people and their loyalty. We need loyalty of the people. We need people to feel for the country, feel for India, feel for the nation. That can happen only through soft power, not by military power and hard power which we are exercising. If required, we should give autonomy, more autonomy, and they should feel good for the country. Autonomy is not a bad word. We have already given a lot of financial autonomy to the states now, and we are talking about autonomy to northeastern states. We need autonomy. We cannot impose everything from Delhi and North Block or South Block. We need to understand India is such a vast country with so much of diversity. People cherish their culture, their dreams, their religion, their food habits, everything. So we need dialogue, discussion and democracy. A secular, liberal society we want. But unfortunately, this hard power, the muscle power, the way which we are trying to bring Jammu and Kashmir into the mainstream is through force. It may not work. So 370 is no more, but 370 is not the reason for separatism. Even now 370 we have removed, still separatism is going on, still terrorist activities are going on. So we cannot say that 370 abolition or abrogation of 370 will resolve the problem. No. Kashmir issue is a political problem. There are grievances for the people. We have to address the grievance, then only solution will come. So long way to go as far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned within India. So that's all about Article 370 and some of the aspects of it.